Yes. Sahishardho namarutam tuvishvanih apnasvatishu urvarasu ishtanih artanasu ishtanihi. Most probably I have to deconstruct. Artanasu ishtani. Yes, they came together, the two words. So Sahishardho namarutam tu vishvanih apnavasvishu urvarasu ishtanih artanasu ishtanih. Such a proclamation. 12, 12 and 8. Adad Dhavyani Adadih Yajnasya Ketuch Arhana Adhasma Asya Harshato Harishivato Vishve Jushanta Pantham Narach Shubhena Pantham. So he is many noised like the army of the storm winds, carrying over the fertile lands full of our labor. Hurrying over the fertile lands full of our labor, hurrying over the wastelands. Let's go word by word. He takes and devours the offerings. He is the eye of intuition of the sacrifice in its due action, so all men follow with pleasure the path of his joyful and joy-giving fire, as on a path leading to happiness. So, word by word. So he indeed, Shardhach, the army, the group, as if the army, as if the big group, Marutam, of the Maruts. Tuvishvanich, very noisy. Uzvani is Tuvich, many voiced. Apnas. Apnas is the property or maybe even settled property, maybe more than property. Let us see. Apnas, possession, property, work, sacrificial act, Niganta says, progeny even, shape even. So it's from root up, from here apos as work, action, and everything what action produces becomes a property. Every activity turns into something achieved, achievements we can translate. So apnasvatishu, among those possessing properties or possessing the, how do you put it, fruitful activities, urvarasu, you know word uru, yeah? Urvara, yes, somewhere I put it, urvara, fertile soil, field yielding crop. So as if at the crop, the fields giving crops full of resulted labor, action, cultivating action, which are resulted in cultivating action, in cultivated action by the people. Ishtanich is the Vedic word, means the Lord, or to be worshipped, Sayana says. It's only in this hymn, Matt, yeah? There's nowhere else, only in this verse. So we do not know what it really means. Sri Aurobindo translates it as hurrying. Hurrying because interestingly, because root ish is seeking, aspiring, wishing, willing, wanting. Yes, from here, icha, ichati, icha shakti. So ishtanich is the one who is in a hurry, who is aspiring. Let us say aspiring. Aspiring to the fields, crop fields, full of cultivated labor, and aspiring towards the fields which are barren lands, wastelands. So it's kind of he is seeking both, yes, those who are already cultivated and uncultivated lands. So that's why two most probably are mentioned. Adat Havyani, and he takes the offerings. Adadich, the one who takes the offerings. Yajñasya Ketu Harhana, and he is also the Ketu, as Sri Aurobindo would translate it as intuition, the eye of intuition of the sacrifice in its due action, Arhana. It's all very tricky to translate, very, very tricky. Look at this, how many words we have met on in this hymn. 1, 2, 2, 3. Third has more hymns, but Ishtani and Artana are the words met only here in this meaning of waste, desert, uncultivated land. So he is aspiring or rushing onto the cultivated lands full of crops and uncultivated lands, and taking all the offerings, because he is the one who takes the offerings, and he is the Ketu. It can be translated also as the banner or the flag, or Sri Aurobindo usually translates it as intuition or even eye of intuition. He is the one who sees. Chiketa from here, chit. This is the kindred roots. Yeah? Nachiketas is from here also. So to have consciousness, to have awareness, or rather focus, awareness which is focused, seeing particular things. So of that sacrifice, he is the Ketu. Can be also the banner or the smoke. The smoke of the sacrifice. While he is burning, there is always a smoke. Arhana. Arhana, according to the Sri Aurobindo says, in its due action. Here we have Arhana. It's also used as instrumental, Vedic instrumental in this hymn. Yeah, according to what is due. So we have many words which are dubious in meaning, but by the root we can recognize it. Yes, we have Arhat. Arhat is the one who is worthy. So according to worth, according to the due of action. Artana also is from arta suffering, yes, and from here being void of food and nourishment. And so Artana is the wasteland. It is for those who study Sanskrit. I do not know whether it's valuable to get into those nitty-gritties. For me, it is valuable because it gives you more scope of meaning, which is otherwise is not visible. So that's why I'm digging into that direction. Yes?
They're all symbols, no? So they have more than one meaning.
Yeah, definitely. Sure. Sanskrit is amazing in one way that it is actually the language from top down, not from bottom up. It's not Prakrit. Prakrits are mainly focused on communication aspect. Sanskrit is more creative. It creates the meanings which can be applicable to the world. Yeah? It does not describe the outer things. It does not name the outer things. It creates the meanings which can be applied to the outer things. And that is the big difference. It's a creative language. Creative aspect is more powerful than communicative.
So then,
Yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
in Prakrits we have just the opposite, where we always imitate and communicate the outer happenings. Yeah? For us, everything is fixed outside. Language is only a token to communicate what is going on outside. In Sanskrit mentality, it is very different. It is you arrive at the meanings from its own system of etymons, from its own depth, from its own origin. Parame Vyomon, in the highest heaven, all the sounds were heard, all the letters were seen. So from there you build up the meanings which are in accordance with the spirit, and then you use that language to cognize the outer reality by assigning particular actions of language to the outer objects. And there you see something else by that. It's
So
very much,
then,
yeah, go ahead.
so then, can I interpret fertile lands as consciousness, and wastelands as those which have those fields which have not been cultivated, are not
Absolutely,
conscious?
absolutely. It is exactly what it means, cultivated and uncultivated.
Yeah,
Cultivated by what? By consciousness. And
conscious. Okay.
uncultivated consciousness did not work yet there.
Yes.
So he rushes onto those lands also, onto those fields, or onto those lands means what again? It's the spaces of our being, to the places of our being where consciousness did not yet work it
Yeah.
out, did not
Yeah.
make it cultivated.
And he creates it through experiences. It is only through experience we become conscious. So he gives us those experiences, which may be painful or pleasurable, just to create the consciousness.
Right. He is actually the one who brings consciousness power into action. So when he moves to the cultivated lands, you can imagine he comes into our cultural land or cultural environment of music, art, whatever. And
Thank you.
there he also plays his role. He also partakes of the offerings and turns them into the diviner properties. Even more cultivated they become. And in the uncultivated lands, he starts cultivating them, basically.
He has to dig it up first and create the pain first.
Right. Pain will be as the chisel of the gods, as Shubin said.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. So he takes all the offerings, ahavyani, everything which has to be offered or invocations of all the peoples, he takes in with him, because he is the one who takes all. Adadich, Vedic word. Yajnasya Ketu, he is the Ketu, the consciousness of the sacrifice, of the transformation. arhana, in accordance with the truth, or wealth, or worth, yeah, in accordance with that which should be done. Adhasma asya harshatach harshivatach vishvejushantapantha, and all are rejoicing on his path, being happy, harshivatach, of him asya, on his path, rejoicing, all are rejoicing. So he is rejoicing on his path of cultivating the land, making more cultural objects. What is cultural objects? Cultivated land is actually charged with spirit, yes? Where the spiritual values could be recognized. And so he is very happy to do that, to cultivate them, to make them more and more divine, to fill them with the presence of the Spirit and power, power, purified power, power which is following the knowledge. And that is the cultured object, actually. Interestingly, culture is from cult. We spoke about this before. The cult is constant repetition of the same action, of the same offering. Cult is an offering to the spirit. So this ritual or cult means that everybody repeats the same action until it becomes tangible, vivid, embodies some new value. People go to the church on Sundays all the time. They build values. Muslims are all doing namaz from all over the world, 4 times a day towards Mecca. They create the cult, which becomes a power in itself. So the whole nature, the whole land can be cultivated by our efforts and our offerings. And he is the leader of that. Yajñasya Ketu Arhana. He is that who knows, who sees, who is aware of this transformation. And then Dvita Yad Im Kistaso Abhidyavo Mamasyanta Upavochanta Bharigavach Manthanto Dasha Bharigavach Agnir Ishe Vasunam Shuchiryo Dharnich Esham Priyam Apidhim Vanishishta Medhira Avanishishta Vanishishta Medhira. I don't know how to make it to the work. Priyam Apidhim Vanishishta Medhira Avanishishta Medhira. I have to find the rhythm. It's not coming. Dvitayat im kistaso. This is a Vedic word, kistaso. I most probably put kista is here. Yeah. Praise a poet, only in this verse. You can't find it anywhere else. No wonder. A praiser or a poet, kista. Dvita can have many meanings. Indeed, certainly Sri Aurobindo translates this as dual, twofold strength. Let us read Sri Aurobindo's translation first. When in his twofold strength, bards with illumination upon them, the Bhrigu flame seers have made obeisance and spoken to him the word, when they have churned him out of their worship, the flame sears, the fire becomes master of the reaches. He who in his purity holds them within him is wise, he enjoys the things laid upon him, and they are pleasant to him. He takes joy of them in his wisdom. Now look how many how many things wisdom, joy, enjoys things, riches, master, purity, all is charged with consciousness. Every word is a word of consciousness. So let us go word by word. Dvita can be translated from the usually or from the older time or as according to indeed, certainly, especially by all means, just so. This is Dvita can be translated as Adha. But Sri Aurobindo takes it as twofold. Yet when twofold indeed in Kistasach, the poets, Abhidya Abhidyu is the heavenly poets, Namasyanta, carrying their obeisance, or Upavochanta, and approached him with the word. So to say, or invoking Upavochanta, and bringing their obeisance. Bharigavach, these are Bharigu rishis. Matchnantach, churning, Dasha. Dasha is again an interesting word. Let me see, Dash, worship, veneration. You can see it's only in this hymn. And it is used as the instrumental, by worshipping or by surrendering, I can say. By giving oneself, they stir him, the Bhrigu rishis, by stirring him by offering themselves to him, Dasha, by worshipping him. Simple translation. Agnir Ishe, Agni possesses Vasunam of the luminous properties within the substance. Shuchich, and pure Yach, and who is pure. He is Dharnich of all these rishis. Dharnich, supporter, keeper of riches, only in this hymn. So I have to check that I'm right in translation. Otherwise, you see 1, 2, 3, 3 words here in this verse, which are met only in this hymn. Dharnich from root dhri, to hold. We recognize the meaning by the roots. If we would not know the roots, we would not be able to arrive at the meanings of the words. So Agnich Ishe, Agnich possesses, owns even, the luminous dwellers within the substance, and pure he supports them, or holds them there within himself, Sri Aurobindo says. Within him, he who is in his purity holds them within him. And then wise, Medhira. Again, Medhira is met only in this hymn, most probably, no? It's more common word. Medhira, no, it's common word. Medhira, he wise, Priyam apidhin vanishishta. Vanishishta is injunctive from aorist, from root 1 to, and I wrote here for you, It's precative here, so that is basically what is injunctive in the same manner. To like, to love, to wish, to desire, to gain, to acquire, to procure, to conquer, to win, to become master of, to possess, to prepare, to make ready, to aim at, even to attack. So one is a very good meaning to remember in English as to win. Yeah? Winning and also wishing, winning and wishing together, if you will. If you put them together, so you will have that meaning: to like, to love, to acquire, to conquer, to win. So he is the one who enjoys, as Sri Aurobindo translates Vanishishta, all things laid upon him, apidhin priyan, all the priyas, all the pleasant things loaded on him, he enjoys, acquires, wins, conquers, appropriates, consumes. He, the wise, all things he enjoys, the wise. So all things cultivated or uncultivated, he will take them in. He will conquer them. And by conquering means he will appropriate them. He will make them part of himself. And that is the conquest, basically. Yes. You see, we are kind of deconstructing the meanings in the English language constantly. We're kind of arriving at new meanings which are very difficult to express. So you cannot be very precise and narrow in one particular meaning. It has several in one movement. Yeah? And that's why the root one is given so many meanings.
Vladimir, what is Medhir?
Medhira is the wise one. From Medha, later we have.
Okay.
Medha is a very well-known word as wisdom, and
Yes, it is there.
also the sap, the juice, yeah, and the essence, the quintessential property. But Medha, first of all, is the wisdom, of course. But the other forms of it could be also the meat, the broth, the nourishing, strengthening drink, marrow, sap, essence, sacrificial animal even. Let me check a few more words. Medhya. Office sap, sacrificial, this. Medha. Medha. Mental vigor, intelligence, wisdom, prudence. So in feminine gender, it is the prudence and wisdom, but it is in the original sense, it is that sap, quintessential quality of any substance. It's quite interesting because if we take the clarified butter, it is actually that quintessential property of milk. Yeah? So if milk is knowledge, then the ghee is the wisdom. Same idea, yeah, that essential, quintessential is something which is everywhere present, but hidden, and that's why it becomes that intelligence or prudence or wisdom. So when in his twofold strength, bards with illumination upon them, this is abhidyavach, abhidyu with heaven upon, The Bhrigu flame seers. Why he translates Bhrigu's flame seers? Because it's from root Bhrij, Bhrigu, from shining, flaming. Yeah? So he kind of unfolds the meaning of Bhrigu. Bhrigu flame seers have made their obeisance and spoken to him the word Namasyantach, Upavochantach. Yeah? Upavochantach invoked him or spoke to him, and Namasyantach bringing their obeisance. When they have churned him, Manthantach Bharigavach, churned him out by their worship, Dasha. Dasha, from here, Dashu, Dashushe, the one who sacrifices, or the one who gives himself. It's from root Da. These are kindred roots, yes. The giving, we spoke about this. From here, there are positive and negative words. For example, dasyu is a negative word, or dasa is a negative word, but from the same root da, because the root da has meaning of giving and separating from oneself. When we give, we cut part of oneself and give it away. So it can be in the meaning of separation, or in the meaning of giving oneself totally. So by worshipping, or by their worship, by their self-surrender and giving, they stir him out. That means they, with their energetic offering of themselves, they reveal him hidden in themselves. The flame sees, he repeats this, Bharigava. Because they are the seers who flame with this fire. They were the first Atharvans, the Bhrigu rishis. They belong to the older family of rishis. We spoke about this long ago, about Bhrigu and Angiras rishis. There are two types, older and younger rishis. Older rishis are Bhrigu, yeah, Bharigavas or Bhargavas. They belong to Bhrigu family. And later in the tradition, Bhrigu and Bhargava and Shukracharya is from the Bhrigu family actually. They all turn to be the old gods and later Asuras. Interesting, yeah? When new gods were discovered, when Angirasa rishis kind of build new relations with new gods, Indra, Brihaspati became their leader. Brihaspati is charged with, or is composed of, with these Angirasa rishis. 7 tongues of Brihaspati are his rishis, 7 rishis, Angirasa rishis. When they discovered new gods, the old gods became Asuras. They are mentioned as Asuras already in the Veda. Yeah? Ahura Mazda also. We will speak about it, the same story. These are the ancient gods and belong to the Soma Yagas of Bhrigu, of Bhargavas, of Bharigavas.
So why did they become asuras and how?
Because when the new gods came into being, the cult has changed. In cult, there were 2 different cults. The cult of the previous rishis, of the ancient rishis, was to give oneself, this dasha. By giving oneself, the Bhrigus churned him, and the heat was generated. This is how tapasya is being generated. Tapasya is that generating heat by what? By giving oneself to this, what you do. Yes? by total surrender to the action of your own. Suppose you have an idea to reach heaven, and you will not do anything but that. So you concentrate only on that thought, and until it is done, you will not give up. So you sacrifice your body, your mind, your vital to the idea of achievement. It's a way of tapasya. But when new gods were discovered, they discovered the flame in the heart. Angirasa rishis discovered that there is the presence of the divine in the heart, and not only in the body. Not only the heat has to be generated, but you can offer love and affection and adoration. And that was a new way. You can adore the gods, and they will respond, or they will bring their powers to you. You don't need to do tapasya, your willing effort to achieve something by your own force. Tapasya is always achieving by your own. You are responsible for what you do. There you are not responsible. There you surrender yourself with love and adoration. Give yourself totally to the divine, and whatever it does to you, it is good. You accept it. And this new idea of surrender, not to your idea, what you want to achieve, but to the divine idea, what the divine wants you to achieve, was a drift away from the old gods. And so they split onto the Purva Rishaya and Nutana Rishaya. We have it in the hymn, in the first hymn already, in the second verse. Yeah? Nutana, modern rishis, and Purva, and the first rishis, the ancient ones. So this shift of cult, we see it in many cultures. Yes, we spoke about this not once, but maybe people don't think about it. We see it in Judaism, when Abraham wants to sacrifice his son, the body, the nature, to the God says, I don't need him, his body. Bring me the lamb, pure and white. And that lamb is the symbol of the psychic being, of the flame in the heart, love for the divine. Instead of going for tapasya, you go for surrender. Instead of going for the monkey path, yeah, by Ramakrishna, you go for the kitten path. Let mother carry you. So there are two paths which cannot be reconciled. We cannot easily reconcile between them. The path of the baby monkey and the path of the baby kitten. So monkey has to hold the mother with her hands. And if the hands are weak, then the monkey baby falls from the mother. Nothing you can do about it. But the kitten is giving herself totally to the mother, and mother carries the kitten. And if mother drops, then what to do? Mother drops, the kitten falls. But there is no responsibility for the kitten to be carried by the mother. And this is a new path, the path of adoration and surrendering to the divine will. So Bhrigus belong to these ancient rishis, and by their stirring themselves, giving themselves totally to this stir, they churned out Agni, the tapasya, energy which can improve and change the worlds. And that was the sacrifice. And that's why the sacrifice of animals, the sacrifice of Purusha is taking place also, of man. Why this ancient sacrifice of the bodies, yes, of children to the gods? Because it was the way how it was understood to achieve the divine consciousness. There was no other way to give oneself. You give what you have. You have the body, give the body. Yeah. Literally. But when they discovered that they have the soul, so that was the shift. So why to give the body if you can achieve everything much better with greater wisdom, receive the grace from above by adoring and loving and giving oneself to that will, instead of claiming your own understanding and your own achievement. So there is a gap between the tapasya and surrender. Tapasya is selfish in a way, though it achieves great results in the transformation. And the world lives mainly in tapasya framework. You understand that. Everybody tries his best, responsibilities, let me do this and then that, and I am in charge of the process. I have to be in charge. You have to own it, as I hear all the time. Own it. Otherwise, if you don't own it, what can you do? And if I surrendered it, so should I own it also? So there is a
tapasya
contradiction. Yes.
Vladimir, so tapasya is like the ego coming in front, right? Because it's all about yourself.
Yeah. Well,
And
ego, mental,
that's
vital,
why,
and physical. Correct.
right. So then that's how the old gods became asuras. It's mostly
Absolutely. Absolutely. Very nice. Very nice conclusion to this long talk.
thank you.
Yeah, I had to kind of give you the picture that it should not sound kind of, yes, difficult, or because you may accept this as an idea, but to see it in the details, how our nature works. And we have two parts in us. One is this tapasya in the nature, which we always exercise with. We are looking into our health problems and so on. And we have the soul, which does not care about this. It wants the divine and the divine alone. And there is a huge gap between the two. Yeah, it's not yet bridged. It will be bridged only with the supramental manifestation. Then we will become the divine in the body. But as long as the body is something else than the soul, there will be always that gap. And there are two different flames. There is the flame of Kundalini Shakti rising from below, and there is the flame of the heart. Yeah? These two flames, they are not easily reconcilable. You cannot follow both in a way. Either you surrender or you do your thing. I am putting it black and white. Of course, there are many stages which need both of those. You have to be in control of certain processes, have discipline and so on. And as Sri Aurobindo says, the only thing we must do is to provide the surrender. Because if we say, do surrender for me also, I surrender to you and you surrender me to you, that will not work. And that requires particular discipline and focus. And tapasya, particular tapasya, you have to reject certain things which are coming in. You cannot accept everything because you surrendered somewhere there in the mind, or once yesterday you surrendered and today you do everything else. So it requires constant surrender. Surrender means all the time.
That's why it's more difficult, I think, than tapasya.
Yes, absolutely.
It's more difficult.
It's much more difficult. even our ego, our mental ego, our knowledge bank will resist. It will say, I know what to do, how to proceed better. I experienced it many times. I have the whole wisdom, behind me. Yes, and now you have to step into the unknown. Surrender is stepping into the unknown all the time, refreshing your perception, seeing the world anew, and accepting it, and calling to the divine, making it new every time. It's not an easy path, but it is much easier at the end if you are spiritually inclined than to go tapasya way. And that becomes a sunlit path. You don't need to worry at all about anything.
There are no rituals that you have to follow, actually. Then
Even
it's a
rituals you forget. You don't.
yes,
Yeah,
it's a
rituals are
constant.
tapasya. Yeah.
Yes, it's a constant state of a consciousness that is renouncing every minute. Like Mother said, you have to give up. You have to keep renouncing your achievements, like in Savitri, Sri Aurobindo did.
Yes.
He renounced and gave it up. In the end, he pulled out desire
Right.
and, by its bleeding roots. So
Yeah.
physically, mentally, in every way. So surrender is more difficult, but more rewarding because you're free of rituals and customs.
That's why this formula exists: aspiration, rejection, surrender. Not surrender, aspiration, surrender, rejection. No, you can't do that. You have to clean up before you surrender. You have to find the true love to that flame. Otherwise, surrender is not possible without the flame. So you have to aspire to kindle the flame. That is already the work of the flame here. Then you have to reject everything which is not going there, which is not part of it for now, for this offering. And then you surrender it. What is there to be surrendered? This is actually the way of the sacrifice. Pouring into the flame the ghee.
And then there is full faith.
Right. Yeah, how can you surrender without... Well, even tapasya requires faith. If you don't believe, you cannot do it. Yeah? You have to believe. Believe is the fundamental kind of quality of our life. We believe, that's why we live. Otherwise, we would not be able to do anything without the belief. All right, I'm moving forward.
Vladimir, I had one little question. In
Sure.
terms of the timeline, where does this transition happen? Like, around which mandala does this shift take place?
It is not in the mandala, it is within the very... Here, for example, this rishi, he will be from Bharigu's family, for sure. That's why all his... Now, if you observe what we studied, Paruchepa, interesting, the Chepa are usually people coming from the ancient tradition. Shepa is the tail. Sometimes the tail, Shunach Shepa, is the tail of the dog, actually. Shunach, the dog, Shepa, the tail. And that tail is understood also or translated as also the bliss or the organ of bliss, even the phallic symbol. So it is something which connects to that very energy, or Shiva Lingam, yeah, of the energy of procreation, which is in nature, which is to be heated up. That is the tapasya. That is the Agni which pushes nature forward. Yes, it is that very Ayuh of Ayurveda, that ojas, if you will, yeah, which becomes tejas, flaming up. That very energy of the body, of the mind, of the vital, which has to be used for improvement and action. And what is interesting that this rishi, Daivodasi, Paruchepa, Paru everywhere, so kind of spread out the delight found in nature, let us translate his name. If we look at his verses now from this point of view, you will see that he is Tapasvin. Only here we had this confirmation of Bhrigu. We do not distinguish these things because we don't have that kind of issue yet. But once we have this issue, we will start distinguishing exactly this ojasa. You will find all these words of the particular method of yoga and sacrifice, which is done with the help of tapasya. And flaming
Okay.
the
So it's not
yeah
it's not organized as the
no,
ancient rishis, and then the no. Okay.
it is not
And when
organized
they
in
refer
Mhm.
yes, and when they refer to the Purva Pitaraha, are they referring to these ancient rishis, or is it that they're referring to something beyond that, like something that came before that?
I think they refer to the rishis of the previous cult of the sacrifice of nature. By sacrificing the nature, we can arrive at the betterment of nature. That's how nature evolves. Yeah? That is the
Mm-hmm.
survival of the fittest, if you will, yeah? Of the Darwinian system.
Mm-hmm.
It's one part of the evolution, which is constantly present at the same time. And there is another part which is more spiritual in its nature. It's finding the flame in the heart, yeah? Psychic presence. And once that is found, the evolution, the spiritual evolution, can be speeded up. And that's why those new rishis and new gods were considered to be their gods, yes? And the other ones who were belonging to the tapasya and nature started to become asuras. It's an amazing topic, actually, because
Yeah,
it is.
I did not know that. It's really interesting.
Mm.
Yes,
And then you
thank
see
you.
how these great gods like Varuna, he becomes the deity of the sea. They all disappear slowly, all those gods. Yeah, Ashwins disappear. They all fade away, you know. Um, Adityas, all the Adityas, Mitra, Varuna, Aryaman totally disappeared. Even Bhaga, which is closer to us because Bhaga is the delight of our inner being. So all of them, so Daksha, Prajapati becomes very abstract thing. So everything becomes abstract. Because what was
But
found
then
was.
again,
Hmm?
but then later with the Puranas, again these gods like Indra, and um, they are
Yeah.
also degraded, right?
Yes, all the gods were degraded. Because of this, new method was found, more psychological discovery, self-discovery. So it turned on to individual more, with this flame discovered within. Interesting, yeah. If flame is in nature, it's more universal. It's more like the magic structure of consciousness. But when we shifted to the mythical structure, whether the divinity is within your heart, then you have to deal with loving the divine. So the whole approach to worship and sacrifice changed. So we have these two cults.
But
They are simultaneously coexisting now. Yeah, both are
yeah.
active. In the esoteric history, they describe the fight between Shiva and Vishnu. Maybe we spoke about this before. In Puranas also, they speak Shiva and Vishnu were fighting 1,000 years, the war, and nobody could win. So then they dropped this war, they stopped fighting. So this is quite interesting because Shiva is that Shiva Lingam, the power of nature, yes? The tapasya. He is the greatest tapasvin. And Vishnu is very different deity. With his, avatars, with his 10 avatars, Krishna, baby. Vishnu could be a baby, yeah? And his approach is from the heart upward. Yeah? If the Shivas is from the bottom up, yeah? The whole Kundalini Shakti has to rise. Then Vishnu's is not like this. Vishnu is more bottom from the top down to the heart, supporting the flame within the heart. Yeah, you were saying something, Monica, or Prito. Who was
It's clear.
okay. I know it's too much to talk about. There are many more things to mention, but this is the framework in which these two cults build our own personality. And we have two energies in us. One is the energy of delight from the bottom of nature. Yeah? This is sexual energy, which is actually the power of our life in the body. The body lives as long as that energy is maintained there. It's known in Ayurveda, by the way, it's quite interesting, yeah? That they believe that that energy gives us the lifespan. And the other energy is the flame in the heart, which is very different from that bottom flame of Kundalini. And Mother says between these two, these are two loves. One love is the sexual love, so to say, pleasure, love, pleasure, which is more of universal nature. And that's why Shunach Shepa, Parut Shepa, this is why Shepa is used, interestingly, as indicator of the old tradition. And the other is a very different love towards the divine, which has nothing to do with sexuality. And Mother says between these two there is an abyss. They don't come together. When you love truly from the heart, that pleasure drive flame does not come even. But then if you kindle that flame, it may become an obstacle for this from the heart. So the reconciliation between the two is hardly possible without supramental interference. They will be rectified or reconciled when the supermind will come. Sri Aurobindo speaks about this in the evening talks. You will find the whole discussion when they ask him about the sexual energy. And he says, I cannot speak to you because you will not understand. So he refuses to speak about this energy because people are so, how to say, drawn to this kind of, attracted to this type of mixing it into this flame from the heart. Yeah? And this mixture is creating a failure in yoga. That's why he didn't want. Only the final result will reconcile between these two energies. When Vishnu and Shiva will meet and become one. Can you imagine that? In all Indian traditions, those who know Indian tradition, it's impossible to imagine. There is only one temple in actually 40 kilometers from Auroville, which is dedicated to Vishnu and Shiva together.
Which temple is that?
Which
It is Chidambaram. Chidambaram temple, yeah, I recommend you to visit. And even there is one tower for Vishnu, and then on quite distance another tower for Shiva. So no mixing easily. But for both, yeah. Because this means a supramental realization. The divinity from below meets the divinity from above. It's like Indra and Agni. Agni is the son of Shiva rising from below, and Indra is the lightning coming from above. And Indra and Agni, when they meet, the sacrifice is done. It's the condition for the sacrifice, that these two energies meet.
This energy which rises from below, the sexual energy, is also part of Shiva's domain, right?
Yes. Shivalingam. The power of the divine in nature, hidden in nature.
But Vladimir, in the very first hymn, it says the ancient rishis and the new rishis, they both worship Agni.
Yes.
So,
There are two fires. One is below, another is in the
okay,
heart. And
okay.
it's mentioning is all the time throughout the Vedas. We will meet many times that rishis worship him as Idya and Yajatra, or Priya and Yajatra. So worthy of love, to be loved, and worthy of sacrifice, to be used as tapas. Yeah.
Thank you. You had said this earlier, yes.
Yes.
Idya and Ajata.
Well, I may repeat myself many times, so sorry for that. But this is the vision of the Veda and of our evolution of consciousness, where we move from more natural to more spiritual relations with the divine. All right, I will go. Yeah.
Sorry. No, I was just saying the notion of who are asuras now is very distorted. Then, I mean, the labeling of asuras with certain vocabulary, which is quite which is happening nowadays. So that's not something which was represented in Vedas, right?
No, in the Vedas, there are many asuras. Yes, Varuna is asura, Indra is asura, even Agni. So they are all asuras. Adityas are asuras. Asura means asura, so it is the one who has the power of being, great power. So it's not asura as asura, yeah? The one who has no light. But it's quite interesting that the first divine emanations fell into their opposite and built the foundation for the nature. So you can see this immediately as something, the hint that the first gods, first godheads were building the foundation on which new beginning can start or new development can take place.
An identical thing happens with the Greek gods also.
Mm.
Absolutely identical. The
Yeah.
earlier Greek gods were all powers of nature, and the later ones were different.
Very true.
So,
Very true. Yeah. And there is always between them, there is always a tension, a fight. Kronos and Zeus.
yes.
Father and the son. This was understood as this. And then later it was misunderstood in the psychology, modern psychology.
And it's related to nature also, because Gaia is there as one of the earlier Greek goddesses. So it's very similar. It's amazingly similar, actually.
Yeah, interesting. Shubinder says that Greeks took it from Indian pantheon, actually. The whole pantheon came to them.
Do you have anything, I mean, some article or something which talks about Asuric godheads and non-Asuric godheads, if I'm saying it right?
I do not know yes, what you refer to, but there are many things, yes, of this kind, but not the way how I kind of was talking today about it, because it's kind of a discovery through the text, yeah. And many texts, not only Vedic texts. You have to see it in other traditions and start wondering why the voice of God says to Abraham to bring him the pure lamb. What does it really mean? Yeah. And then you start making connections. You see that in every culture, Japanese culture, there are emperors. Emperors are from heaven. And there are common people and blue blood, aristocracy. You will find everywhere this separation on two types. Yeah, the more natural man, down to earth, and more uplifted man, closer to heaven, of different blood, of different origin. So these two are there everywhere. All right. Okay, I will close with mantra. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om.